I was only 8 years old when I moved with my dad to the back of a fancy building in Manhattan. It was one of those places that looked like a hotel, crystal chandeliers in the lobby and doormen in white gloves. But I didn't come in through the front. My world started at the little gray door in the back, where the smell of mildew mixed with the oil from my dad's tools. He was the new superintendent, and that tiny windowless room became our home. While other kids played in the condos, playground, or came back from ballet class in spotless white leotards, I sat on the maintenance bench, drawing. Sometimes he'd take me along to clean the hallway, fix the elevator, or trim the grass in the garden. It was our way of being together. For a long time, I thought that golden world was untouchable. I'd listen to the residents talking, arrogant voices, shallow complaints. It was like we, the ones who took care of the place, didn't even exist. We were invisible. When I was 15, I found out just how invisible I really was. I'll never forget that night. There was a party in the building's event room. I got curious. I walked up to the door and leaned against it, and they saw me. The building manager's daughter, Olivia, her name still stings when I say it, pointed right at me and called me a basement rat. The laughter hit me like knives. I ran, locked myself in the bathroom of our little room and cried until my throat burned. Something changed in me that day. It wasn't anger, not exactly. Later that night, I opened my diary and wrote for the first time. One day I'll come back here, but through the front door. And it wasn't just for me. It was for my dad, who stayed in the background but never let himself feel small. Ever since I wrote that promise in my journal, I haven't been the same. I carried that sentence with me everywhere. But growing up behind the scenes of a luxury building wasn't just hard, it was harsh. I watched people who had everything treat others like they were nothing. And the worst part? I started to believe maybe they were right. Maybe we really were nobody. But my dad never let that idea take root in me. Even when he was tired, even with his hands cracked and calloused, he always said we could be more. That dignity didn't come from what you wore. It came from how you walked through life. When I turned 18, I got a full scholarship to a public college far from home. Economics, a major that felt way out of reach for someone like me, but little by little, it started to make sense. I wanted to understand how money worked for the people who always had too much of it. I wanted to know why some doors were bulletproof and others invisible. During the day, I got an internship at a small real estate agency. It was all I could manage. I learned to find value in the details. Meanwhile, my dad's body started to give out. First, it was a cough. Then came the shortness of breath, the tests, the hospitals. I started sleeping less and working more. He tried to hide how bad it was getting, but I saw it. I always saw it. One night, I thought about quitting everything. Dropping out of college, going back to the building where it all began, and taking care of him. But something unexpected happened. One of the agency's clients, a classy older man named Henry Walsh, overheard me talking about market value like I had 20 years of experience. The next day, he came back just to speak with me. He said I had something rare, vision. And more than that, hunger. Henry became a kind of mentor. He taught me the cold language of contracts, the art of dealing with millionaires, the power of knowing when to stay quiet. With him, I learned that it's not just about making it. It's about knowing how to stand once you get there. But even with all that, my dad was still my foundation. Until he was gone. Just like that. Quietly. Just like he lived. I remember the day I scattered his ashes in the Hudson. The wind was freezing and my fingers were shaking. But something inside me settled. Now it was just me and God. That night, I went back to my journal. Just one sentence. I'm gonna make it, Dad. 6 years felt like 100. 6 years of studying, reheated coffee, silent tears, and goals taped to my bedroom wall. By 24, I was already a partner at one of the biggest real estate firms in the city. It felt like a dream, but it wasn't. It was work. Hard, relentless work that no one claps for. But there I was, walking in heels through buildings I wasn't even allowed to enter before. But life has a way of pulling these ironic little stunts that feel like bad jokes. One day, between meetings, I got an email, one of those property auction alerts, and there it was, the building, the one I grew up in, the one where they called me basement rat, where my dad scrubbed stairs and picked up trash for people who thought they were cleaner than the world itself. The place was drowning in debt, poor management, unpaid fees, neglect. The decay, they once said, belonged in the back was now dripping down the front. I stared at the listing like it was a mirror into my past. I didn't hesitate. I scheduled a meeting. Some of the residents had moved out. Others were still there, more wrinkled, less proud, including her. Olivia. The former spoiled brat was now a divorced, exhausted woman with a little boy. She acted confident, but it was obvious she could barely hold it together. Funny how time carves people with the same knife they once used to hurt others. We met twice to go over the sale details. She looked at me with suspicion, but didn't recognize me. And in the middle of it all, I met Leo, her son, a sweet, shy little boy, maybe 7 years old. He reminded me so much of myself at that age. He was there during one of my visits, sitting on the stairs, drawing with a broken colored pencil. He smiled at me, a pure, innocent smile, a smile that tore something open inside me. I couldn't hate that kid. I couldn't even pretend. He was just a child. That night, I couldn't sleep. I started wondering what exactly I was after in all this. Revenge? Justice? Recognition? I could buy the building, and I would. But the truth is, it wasn't about showing them who I'd become anymore. It was about figuring out who I actually was now. In the mirror, I saw a strong woman, sure, but also a tired one, still carrying old baggage. And I had to ask myself, did I still need to? I always imagined what the day would be like when I finally bought that building. I thought it would taste sweet, almost like revenge, that I'd throw some exclusive party, maybe even kick out a couple of tenants just to make a point. But when the moment came, none of that happened. It was during a last-minute meeting. The residents, all gathered in the lounge that had once been off-limits to me, were waiting to hear who the new owner was. I arrived quietly. When the lawyer announced my name as the new owner, the silence turned into a restless murmur. And then came the inevitable question. Who are you? Before I could say anything, Olivia stood up slowly. She looked at me. For a few seconds, her face pale, like she'd just seen a ghost. And then, I saw it. She knew. She remembered. The whole room fell still, and right there, in front of the same elite that once turned their backs on me, Olivia, the one who humiliated me, asked for forgiveness. Not with fancy words, not with some performance, just lowered eyes and the broken voice of someone who finally understood what they had done. She asked me not to take her apartment, said it wasn't for her, but for Leo. And when I looked at the boy standing in the back, hands clenched tightly, it was like I saw myself. The revenge I once held onto so fiercely didn't fit inside me anymore. It was smaller than the person I had become, smaller than the woman my father would have taught me to be. That day, I made the hardest decision of my life. I didn't evict anyone. I didn't fire the building manager. I didn't raise the rent. Instead, I transformed the building. I started by hiring young people from forgotten neighborhoods for the front desk and cleaning jobs, kids like my father once was. I turned the garage into a community library. I offered free classes on financial, literacy, social skills, even meditation. It wasn't a luxury condo anymore. It was a social experiment. Some residents hated it. Others started to change, even Olivia, who began showing up to the classes with her son. She always sat in the back, quiet, like she was learning how to see the world all over again. I didn't want their applause, I just wanted them to look around, and for the first time, see something beyond their own reflection. Months had passed since I took over the building. The transformation didn't happen overnight. Nothing real ever does. There was pushback, complaints, judgmental looks. But little by little, the cold walls began to warm up. I saw residents helping the staff for the first time. I saw kids from wealthy families playing with the children of housekeepers in the same courtyard where I was once kicked out. And I saw Olivia, every Tuesday and Thursday, sitting in the library helping kids who struggled with reading. Maybe she didn't know it, but that quiet gesture was her way of making amends. I kept moving forward. I had new projects, new buildings, a rising career. But that place, it was more than concrete and brick. It was a scar. And also a victory. One morning, as I visited the service area that was once my home, I came across something unexpected. Mr. Alfredo, an old employee who had worked there since my father's time, called me over to show me a box of old tools that had been left behind. He said it was the last thing that remained of Domingos in that building. I opened the box right there. Among worn screwdrivers, a broken tape measure, and a pair of old gloves, there was an old notebook stained with grease. It belonged to my father. It was a sort of journal, like a list of things he wanted to teach me, but never got the chance. On each page, a simple lesson. Don't complain about the weight of the world. Strengthen your shoulders. Be firm, like concrete, but flexible, like the water that shapes it. If no one opens the door for you, fix the doorknob. Flipping through that notebook felt like talking to him again. No drama, no perfect words. Just the raw truth of someone who lived with little but dreamed of everything. I closed the notebook, smiled to myself, and realized it wasn't him I saw in those pages. It was me. Everything I became was already there, in the small seeds he planted every day, even without knowing if they'd ever bloom. On my way out, I saw Leo running down the hallway with a piece of paper in his hand. He showed me a drawing. It was the building. But not how it looked, how he saw it now. Bright, with trees, people of all kinds hugging each other, and on the rooftop, a little handwritten sign. Everyone has a home here. I held that drawing like it was a trophy, not the one I pictured at the start of this journey, but the one I needed. Because deep down, my greatest achievement wasn't buying the building. It was rebuilding it from the inside out, and maybe, just maybe, I rebuilt myself too.